Reece Creed, thank you so much for joining me on Flop Culture. How are you?
Thanks. I'm actually honoured.
You're in my house.
No, like I walked in and I was like, oh, there's the BYD, there's whiskey. I was like, hi. I feel like it's so weird because I've known you for so long, but I also haven't.
Yeah.
So I feel like I shouldn't know all these things about you, but it's weird.
They're my trademarks, the BYD and whiskey, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. Well, thank you for coming out here. I really appreciate it. I was determined to get this interview done. We've been talking about it for ages and ages and ages.
Yes.
So I'm delighted it's finally happening. Tell the people, what are we talking about this week on Flop Culture?
The amazing Brit pop star, Cher Lloyd.
Cher Lloyd. I'm going to sing Cher Lloyd by Cher Lloyd. Talk to me about Cher Lloyd. When did you first become aware of her? Were you a big X Factor stan? Were you a stan of her while watching? When did this relationship between yourself and Cher all begin?
Oh, I was just such an X Factor fanatic.
Same.
Like, I think that we will never get a show like that just because it was at the perfect point in media where we didn't really have social media. So it was kind of like, we didn't have streaming very much. We didn't have anything like that. So it was like this kind of monumental thing to sit down on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
If you missed
Appointment viewing, yeah.
Appointment viewing, exactly. If you missed it, oh my God, devote.
Yeah.
If someone scheduled something on an 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, I was not going. But so I loved X Factor, but I think that when Cher came out with the denim cutoffs, the military jacket, like her hair put up in a messy bun, I was like, oh, she's different. She's not like the other girls.
She's not like the other girls. She's a
not
star.
like the other girls. And I think when she went into Turn My Swag On, I think my life changed forever. I actually just remember my mom and dad hating her.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, she's so stupid. I was like, no. And I was such a Cher defender always.
Yeah.
I think that she was so kind of edgy and she was so different to what UK pop especially was at the time, which was very clear, cookie cutter vibes. But I just thought she had something kind of different to her. And I just remember getting that audition, putting it into that MP3 converter.
YouTube to MP3 downloader, MP4 downloader.
And putting it
for
on
your
my
iPod.
MP3.
Yeah.
And I would be going around turn my swag on.
Up above the bed, turn my swag on.
No, literally, that was me. And I just thought it was the best audition ever. And I just think, I was like, I'm going to root for you this year. Because you always had one you rooted for.
Yeah. It was a real moment in time, and you're dead right in asserting that music, especially in the UK at that point, and especially even within the X Factor machine, you could tell they were really looking to, because this is kind of peak X Factor, maybe just going out of their peak, but still being absolutely gargantuan. They were really looking to speak to youth culture, but again, respectfully, what does Simon Cowell know about youth culture? You know what I mean? So then you have someone like Cher coming in, as you mentioned, in these insane jeans. I don't know what's holding them together.
There was no jeans.
Not to sound like a granny being are you not a bit cold in them? But they're barely denim, they're barely hanging on. And she does this cover of Turn My Swag On, which is originally by Soulja Boy, but in the style of Carrie Hilson.
And she says that.
She says that.
I'm going to do the Carrie Hilson version.
And she sounds kind of there's bits of it where I'm okay, she's doing a very good rendition.
What I liked about it was that it was also very quintessentially British.
It was very British.
It was such an Americanized song. And I was like, what is she going to do with this? She's going to come on now, every other girl singing Listen by Beyonce. But she did it in such an authentic way.
Oh, you can tell she loves R&B and hip hop music. She cites Nicki Minaj as one of her inspirations, and also hysterically Dolly Parton.
No,
Dream Blunt Rotation, Cher Lloyd, Dolly Parton,
Dream Blunt
Nicki
Rotation. I just think that she was just so polarizing as well. And I love a polarizing figure on a reality show. I love someone who's either absolutely hated or absolutely loved.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the start of her becoming the conversation for the season.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I kind of didn't remember her being as hated within the X Factor process as she was. I thought it kind of came after, but she did this really good interview with The Guardian in 2020 where she kind of talked about how difficult she was constantly being perceived as this really difficult, like teenager who seemed really bratty and wasn't appreciative of where she was. And then obviously she got to the final, but she got to the final at the expense of Gamu Nengu and our own beloved Mary Byrne.
Oh,
and
Mary.
that seemed to be kind of the nail in the coffin for her, because it was just like, I don't know, because she was doing all these like really hip hop inspired performances, like the girl can sing, but I feel like they were trying to go down the rap route too much with her in the X Factor, I think. What do you think? Or what are your memories of her actually within the show then beyond the audition?
I think that there were some times where I remember some really standout performances. The one that like sticks in my head is when she did Hard Knock Life.
Yeah.
I thought that was everything. Like it was that kind of like, it was poppy, but it also had a bit of rap in there. It was just really like something new.
Yeah.
And I think that like I probably like who was big at the time, like Girls Aloud, like all these people that were really kind of, you know, they didn't have that edge. I think because she had the hip hop edge, they were just like, let's flood every single performance.
Yeah.
With this hip hop, with a rap. She's going to do an original rap.
She has to do a rap. Yeah,
like
she has to do an original rap.
Exactly. And she was doing like the most random songs, like really hyper, like pop songs. And she was putting a rap in the middle and it just sounded a bit weird some weeks. But I remember Hard Knock Life as being like a really, really good. And I think that was an early week. And then the other one that I remember is Halloween week. Which was like Stay.
Stay by the Shakespeare Sisters.
Exactly.
Because she can sing. I feel like...
But I think that's when she showed she could sing.
Yeah, if you're not into... Like, there's an argument to be made, okay, maybe you're not into her style of voice, maybe you're not into her style of music. That is an incredible performance. And it's mad to have a performance like that, which there's a really sad story behind, which I'll get to in a second, but have that next to... Do you remember, we forgot to talk about her boot camp audition, I think, or her boot camp performance of...
Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods.
Oh my God, it's hard to believe. And look, it's really difficult as well because like she's 16. Like she's so...
And that's what we forget, I think.
Yeah, she was so young and easily moldable into like something else that it was...
But also like I think of myself as 16. And if I was given that platform, I'd be doing the exact same shit. Like it's... I think especially boot camp is when we saw that kind of turn so that she could do her own kind of... It was kind of like they were trying to make her own artist from the start.
Yeah.
Which was probably sometimes to her detriment.
Yeah.
I feel like they thought that she was getting all this special treatment because of kind of the way that she was portrayed. I also hated the way that they tried to make her like Cheryl.
But that was a criticism that was constantly levelled at her then as well. Cheryl was her mentor, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Cheryl was her mentor, but because like, you know, Cheryl had all this success previously or was in the midst of her success with her own solo music career and like had done the combats, had done the military thing. And like, because they were both brunette, it was a thing of, she was constantly branded as like Pound Shop Cheryl and all the, like it didn't matter. It kind of felt like she couldn't win. And it's just frightening to look back and be like, she was 16.
No,
she
literally.
was 16, had no concept of what it was like to be famous. Obviously, had no idea it was going to become such a thing. There was a press conference she did before the final, after the Gamu and Mary Byrne exit, in which she was asked about the growing hate-filled online campaign. And she's like crying, being like, what are you on about hate-filled campaign? I didn't know there was a hate-filled campaign. Like it seemed like no matter what she did, she couldn't win. She was too young. My watch is trying to talk to me, I think. She was too young. She was too different, too edgy with whatever kind of throwing the raps in ever. But then when she sang, it was like, oh, well, she's still not good enough in comparison to these other artists. You also have to bear in mind that she comes from a Romani Gypsy background, and you said as much as she was able to bring like this kind of real British sense to performances, she grew up in a council estate, and I feel like that was kind of levelled at her. There was a lot of like classist abuse towards her and her background. To go back to that Shakespeare Stay performance, her uncle had died from a methadone overdose before that performance, and she decided not to go to the funeral because she knew the way the media were going to spin it, that they were going to call it, I'm using her words as well, that she was saying that it would have just been called like the big fat gypsy funeral in the papers, which is just, it's so grim.
It's really
I cannot
grim.
believe, respectfully, that she came out of the process alive.
And that's exactly what I'm saying as well. Like, you have to remember, she was a literal child when this was happening. Like, it's not like she had like a defense system. She also said that, like, there was another interview that I had read, and she basically was sitting in the canteen and there was paparazzi outside, and she was talking to one of the presenters, or producers, sorry. And she had a teaspoon in her hand that she had just stirred her tea with. And they took all these weird angles of her talking with a teaspoon, saying she was threatening to burn the producers with a teaspoon.
Oh my God.
Like, she could not do anything without it being made to be something, you know, violent or angry or angsty. And I think that was definitely down to the classist issue. Like, it was looking at someone, I'm trying to think of someone else in her year. Was it like Katie Weasel, or like, who were the other girls in her year? I can't remember. But they were seen as so much better than.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I think that she was one of the most talented people on that show at that time. And I think that they really overlooked the talent for the media story with her.
Yeah, I think
it was
so.
to her detriment.
X Factor 2010. Let me look this up and see who else was in it.
It was oh my God, that video of them
Matt
doing...
Cardle, of course.
Yeah.
So it was like...
One Direction.
Series 7, yeah. One Direction, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Disco
like, it
Mary.
Was, because you had... because you just had, like... Matt was, you know, like... your quintessential X Factor contestant at this point. Rebecca Ferguson, incredible voice.
Oh, like even what Rebecca went through as well.
Oh,
like,
it's insane.
It's just crazy.
The X Factor reckoning is coming. I know there have been podcasts and stuff, but like I'm waiting for the Netflix documentary.
I can't wait for Simon Cowell to literally just be ripped apart. Thank you, Jade Thirlwall, for starting
the revolution. Yeah, One Direction, Cher Lloyd, Mary Byrne, as we said, Wagner, classic, how could we forget? Aidan Grimshaw.
Oh, Aidan.
But like Cher was the youngest. I'm looking at it here.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, obviously One Direction, they were all kind of between 16 and 18. She was 17, but like she was on her own. You know what I mean? That's not to say I shouldn't really compare their experiences, because obviously what One Direction went through was nuts as well, but
also
I just can't fathom it. They had the support of like the other lads.
And also, they were men.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that you have to talk about as well. I think because she was a female, she was under so much more scrutiny.
100%.
As is always with the media, and especially the British media.
Yeah. Do you remember who, because she made it to the final, and you know the final X Factor, they get to perform with a celebrity, a singer. Do you remember who Cher Lloyd got to perform with?
I do.
Who?
will.i.am.
I couldn't remember this, and then when I saw it, I was like, that makes perfect sense.
Oh my God, because obviously they were trying to, you know, make Cheryl 2.0, but I think that was actually perfect. I couldn't have thought of someone who would have complimented her as much. And I thought that they had a really good camaraderie. He was actually really good to her as well after the show, helping her, like, you know, with producers and helping her kind of record with Sticks and Stones. So I liked that one.
Yeah.
I remember liking that one.
For anyone that can't remember, so on the final she did a mashup of the clapping song and Get Your Freak On, classic. And then she did a duet with will.i.am, which was a mashup of Where's the Love and I Got a Feeling, because of course it was.
Of course.
It's so 2010. It's
and
so
it was
2010.
so peak.
Yeah, so peak.
Oh, so peak.
Culture peaked. Okay, so X Factor finishes. She comes fourth. She's signed to Psycho Music pretty much immediately, gets to the studio for her debut studio album, which, as you mentioned, is called Sticks and Stones. She's working with songwriter Autumn Rowe, who did one of my favourite songs, Happiness by Alexis Jordan. Alexis Jordan, please come back to pop. Say pop music, please. She's working with producers like Red One, huge producer, Johnny Powers, The Runners. And again, in this Guardian interview, she said the difficulty with this album was... there was kind of an expectation of her to leave the X Factor and be this fully fledged artist. But obviously she wasn't, because X Factor, she's so young. X Factor's a whirlwind experience. In X Factor, you're not really building up yourself as an artist. You're going out and singing covers every night to the best of your ability, to the best of your vocal ability, and to the best of everything else to show how you could be marketed, but you're not being built as an artist. So she said, so this was 2020. So she said, and still at 26 years old, I have to do damage control. Years later, I do have some anger towards people for doing that to me. I definitely don't say hello and shake hands with certain people. And she talks about the fact that she doesn't perform Swagger Jagger anymore, which is her first first single post X Factor. It's a UK #1. She says it reminds her of her angry, afraid teenage self. I look back and I think it's a sad song. Talk to me about Swagger Jagger. Do you remember where you were when you heard it?
I remember. It was summer and I was in Kilkee.
Classic.
Right.
Likely place for you to be.
Oh my God. Yeah. Sorry. As a Limerick person, Limerick people will get it. Kilkee was like your oasis. Literally, you go down there for like the 3 months of the summer. And I remember everyone was like on the One Direction train. Everyone was like, and I was like, is anyone talking about Swagger Jagger? I remember the TY project like video. Like it was all animated.
Yeah.
It was so colourful. And I actually think this is really smart of her. She kind of leaned into what the media thought she was.
Yeah.
And I kind of loved it. Like she came in with the big bouffanted hair. She came in with her big gold hoops, like her Sony Ericsson. And I
miss the day. I know it still happens, but like music video SpanCon. This was the golden age of this.
I wanted the phone. I was like, I want the phone. And it was blue, and I remember it so specifically. But I think that Swagger Jagger was so of its time.
It's listening back to it, like I actively really didn't want to because
no, so fair.
Like, and I hate actually talking about it in a mean way because especially after learning that she's such a difficult relationship with it. And like we cover so much stuff on Flap Culture, and I'll say about it that, you know, it's so of its time, it's so identifiable. This is so of the time in the sense that like it speaks to like such a short period in 2010 or 2011, whenever it was. Like a 6 month, like the window is so small. I remember when the YouTube video came out and looking at, this was at a time before you could hide like the likes and dislikes on a YouTube video. And I remember just like the dislikes were insane. Like it's an insane song. You know what I mean? Like it takes after a Western country song, like, because that's always what's bothered me. I'm like, what does the chorus sound like? Swagger Jagger, Swagger Jagger. It riffs on, do you know, oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling.
And that's what it is.
When I read that today, I was like, this is absolutely insane.
I just remember the start, the intro, where it's like, do, 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 like that. And I was like, you can't stop looking at me. And I was just like, this is art.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was kind of like so bad. It was good to me.
And some ways it's camp. You know what I mean?
It's
and
camp.
I love an iconic like time capsule, even with the lyrics like referring to "You can't stop YouTubing me" on repeat, running this beat. Like the real references to like social media at the time.
And it was so new.
It was so new, and like it was what everyone expected of her. Like I feel like if she had come out with the you know, because she goes on to do like ballads later on in her career and kind of bigger pop songs. I feel like if she'd done that coming out, I feel like people would have been like, but you've rapped for 12 weeks on the X Factor, so what do we have here now?
But I think that it was the perfect intro for her, because I think that she actually had such a strong fan base from the X Factor. And I think if she came out with something a bit too brave, I don't think it would have gone as well for her. I think she needed to kind of ride the wave with that.
Yeah.
And I think Swagger Jagger was almost like an FU.
Yeah, and I do also think, again, to go back to this point, like she likes all that kind, like I think she has a lot of like references. And again, when you're kind of so new, and I don't want to say directionless because that's too harsh, but like say you have a carte blanche going into the studio to be like, I like this artist, this artist, this artist. And you've Simon or whoever else is in the room, Simon probably wasn't in the room, but whoever being like, okay, well we can make a song that sounds like that. And she was also writing on this album that followed, or that this song is on, Sticks and Stones. Like she has 5 co-writes on it. Like I feel like she was very involved, and it might have been a case of someone maybe just being like, maybe not just being like, maybe we can maybe not do this. Or maybe we can take, like, it's very like, throw everything at the wall. And as you said, like if it came on in a club and I was drunk enough and I was having enough of a laugh.
Oh my God, but that's it.
I feel like I'd be like, yes.
Like, I think that it's not something that I would listen to like going out on my walk.
I'll tell you what, it's a very we're listening to that album in the car. I felt like I was kind of going insane. It's very
stressful. It's up, it's down, it's side to side. It is like going to the Waltzers in Wonderland.
It's the sonic equivalent of going to the
Yeah,
Waltzers.
exactly. But what I love about it is it's just so chronically 2010s.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, obviously music from the 2010s is amazing. Like, it was one of the best times for pop.
Yeah.
But I just think Cher just did it in such an insane way that she couldn't help but be heard.
Yeah. A lot of the reviews were more positive than I remember them being. There is one negative review that I have from Sabotage Times about Swagger Jagger that says, Sabotage Times, indeed. Coming across like a Sink Estate answer to the Black Eyed Peas, the track combines a shouty, tuneless verse with a chorus that riffs on Oh My Darling Clementine. I'll tell you what though, Swagger Jagger went to number 1 in the UK, as I said, went to number 2 in Ireland. Taste. That was all you, I'd say.
Me.
That was all you.
That was my streams.
And then the album, which spawned, I think it was 2 more singles. So there was Your Love with Mike Posner.
Brilliant song.
Which, I actually quite like. And I remember her performing that on X Factor. And it was a bit of a full circle moment because obviously she had performed a lot of Mike Posner songs on X Factor. Now his verse, Criminal. I think he should be in prison.
Oh no, so bad.
So bad.
And
so bad.
Like, I think it was great though that she got him on it, because all I remember from her is when she's inside in judges' houses and she's like, I can't sing it.
I can't, she's tonsillitis.
Probably because you think you're cooler than me. I can't do it. I'm dying for it. But I think it's a really good song though. I think that was a lot more tame. It was a lot more palatable.
Yeah.
Because I think Swagger Jagger was just so crazy. But I think Your Love. And I loved the music video.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was way more keeping in like the pop girly realm.
Yeah.
And I think that they kind of knew that Swagger Jagger was going to kind of cement her as, oh, she's solo, she's back. But I think With Your Love is actually a very slept on single from her.
Yeah, I agree. And then we also had Want You Back. Which for the UK release featured a rapper called Astro.
Yes.
And then went on to have kind of a second wind in the US, which we'll talk about. But what do you think of Want You Back? Kind of a banger. Kind of a banger, like.
Perfection.
Perfection, yeah.
I think the girlies could never. The
girlies wish.
Well, imagine Sabrina Carpenter trying to do Want You Back. I just think...
Do you know what? I think Sabrina Carpenter could, is the thing.
Oh, no, I can't.
Okay.
I just think that... I think that, like, it's just so angry. It's so, like... Yeah, it's like, that's the part of it where you're just like, oh my God, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just the way she's almost like a way more bubblegum version of Lily Allen in that song.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's kind of a Lily Allen vibe. But if Lily Allen was doused in icing sugar.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
That's a great way to put it.
You know, that's literally it. But I think that Want You Back was honestly one of my, like, teen defining years singles.
Yeah.
I think that it was so... And this is where I actually can see why it did so well in America, because it's so American.
Yeah.
But while also being British. It's the weirdest thing. And I think that, you know, it didn't really do that. Like, it did well over here, but I think the Americans just really took it under their wing.
Yeah, so the album went to number 7 here, but then now again, the success of the album was kind of down to the success of Want You Back.
Yeah.
Went to number 9 on the US Billboard 200.
Like I had crazy.
No, like as I was researching, it was kind of all coming back to me, but I couldn't even fathom. And even in that Guardian interview where they were talking about her success in the US and being able to start fresh, I was like, I don't remember any of this. But I think it speaks to what you're saying about how it is very British. It was very American. I think it just speaks to that sound at the time and what was it like. It was so chart palatable.
Yeah,
like very. It's not really EDM, but it's kind of electro pop. All these kind of synthy flourishes. It had all of that. I want to go back to some of the reviews. As I said, a lot of them were positive. All Music gave the album 3 out of 5 stars. When Lloyd stops trying so hard, she's actually a pretty compelling pop star. Want You Back and End Up Here are both infectious examples of cutesy pure pop that were called Britney Spears. At times, Sticks and Stones sounds like such a calculated effort to copy everything that's hot in 2011 that it's likely to feel utterly irrelevant by the time the clock strikes 12 on New Year's Eve. BBC Music gave the album a positive review, said Cher has a natural and charismatic vocal presence throughout. A sassy, splashy, modern pop album that's much better than its dodgy lead single. And Digital Spy gave it 4 out of 5 stars. They said, Want You Back, With Your Love even, Play a Boy and Grow Up are all tracks worthy of downloading, and went on to praise Dub on the Track as loaded with attitude that few could pull off. Dub on the Track is quite simply insane. Some of the features on this album, like, I don't know how she pulled it off.
Busta Rhymes.
Busta bloody Rhymes is on this album. Busta Rhymes, we mentioned Mike Posner, Carolina Liar. Name something more 2011 than Carolina Liar. Like, honestly.
Completely.
On that Dub on the Track song, you have Mike Righteous, Zeph Ellis, and Getz. And, like, they're huge artists in, like, the grime rap British scene. Like, what a coup to get them. This album is nuts. I'm trying to think of kind of other highlights from the album. I liked Beautiful People because, again, it showcases her voice. I liked Playboy and the singles. And then other than that...
It's a bit naff.
It's a bit of a weird one, like.
Yeah, like, I think the singles really defined it. Like that's an album led by its singles.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We weren't really going to the album tracks, but I do think that she chose really good features, which really solidified what she was trying to do with her sound.
And again, I think it speaks to her taste profile and that I'm kind of like, if we had been in a room, and look, it's hard as well because it's like you could have been in the room with the best people in the world. She's in the room with Red One and like accomplished songwriters and accomplished producers. Was it just that it was like they were chasing a thing at the time and maybe they didn't realize how quickly it was going to age? It probably is that, like.
And also I think it was immaturity from her.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think her age had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
She probably wanted to replicate a lot of what she was seeing, you know, from obviously people like Nicki Minaj or, you know, any other artists that she's kind of been inspired by. So it was kind of like she was trying to like mix up a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
And it just wasn't working.
Yeah. So the US success then, she's able to start afresh in the US. She relocates in 2012. Want You Back peaks at number 9.
Crazy.
Which is just crazy. That December, she performed at Madison Square Garden, which is beyond. Like,
I know.
Absolutely. Like, she is having, like, a legitimate, like, lots of success. She leaves, I think it's Psycho, she leaves in 2013. Like, she's being interviewed by, like, Larry King. She's, like, she's performing on, like, The Today Show.
Taylor Swift Red Tour.
Talk to me about the Taylor Swift Red Tour, because this, I did not remember this, and then you shared it on your story, and automatically I was like, oh, it's the 1989 tour, because we could do an episode on the 1989
we literally could.
We should do that at some point.
Oh my God, definitely.
But on the Red Tour, Taylor Swift brings Cher Lloyd out. What's going on there? What happened?
Oh my God. So if you don't know, I'm a massive Swiftie here.
Yes.
I remember I got into Taylor Swift a lot, kind of the end of Fearless and To Speak Now.
Okay.
So Red was kind of very much so the album that I was there from the start with.
Yeah.
Like for the releases.
That's so exciting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I obviously love Cher Lloyd, and I was like, oh my God, these are like two girls, love them. And she literally got taken out at the Red Tour. So she basically does all these things sometimes. She was very big on guests back then for Red in 1989, not so much now, but the Red Tour, she brought her out to Want You Back, and they sang it together. And this was my Roman empire. I think about it 24/7.
Because she says it in her intro to Cher. She's like, I'm paraphrasing, but she's like, I'm about to bring out an artist whose song I've been obsessed with. I haven't stopped listening to it since I heard it. Please welcome Cher Lloyd. And Cher Lloyd talked about it in a different interview where she said she'd been kind of struggling in rehearsals because obviously Taylor Swift is incredible and the way the staging was, it had a lot of staircases at the time, and she kept forgetting the words to like obviously her biggest song because she was and she was like, I blame the staircases. But it's such a sweet moment frozen in time of like.
Exactly. And it's like, this could never happen again.
Oh, literally never again.
Like never again.
Never
and
again.
I think that, like, you know, it's so good to watch because it shows like that she was at a height.
Yeah.
Like she was performing at the Staples Center.
Crazy.
You know?
Crazy.
And I just think that the Americans, as much as they kind of, you know, embraced her, they pushed her like away as fast.
Yeah. But again, I think that's more she was a victim of like time moving on so quickly and genres moving on so quickly. She relocates to the US and she's having all that success there. She's working more with LA Reid now and Epic Records. And she starts working on her second album, Sorry I'm Late, which I think is delayed initially for reasons that are kind of unbeknownst to her. I think, again, it's label interference.
Yes.
It's essentially done, but like she can't release it. She does release it then in 2014. It's preceded by the lead single, I Wish, which to say I do not remember. This is a collaboration with T.I. The only song that I remembered from this album, because it used to be on the music channels a lot, was Sirens. So when I heard there was a single before this, I was like, what the hell?
I am the biggest I Wish defender.
Okay.
I think that this is such a good song.
It's a good song. Is it a lead single, Reece? I don't know.
I honestly think it was such a good song.
Yeah.
I think that, like, so I just love it.
Yeah.
I think the lyricism is really cheeky and funny.
Yeah.
I think that it was kind of more elevated.
Yeah.
I think that it had the same kind of vibe as Sticks and Stones, but a bit more curated. Like, it wasn't as crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that she kind of knew her lane.
Yeah, it's definitely more cohesive, a
Exactly.
record. And you could tell there was like a stricter sonic palette, and it was very much like, you need to be singing more because you can sing. I feel like the
Exactly.
realization around like, oh my God, people loved the Shakespeare Sister performance. Why aren't we doing more of that? I feel like that realization came too late. But then it's also all the other issues that we said previously about her being like very young for the first record, wanting to replicate her idols and stuff like that it probably took this long to be like, okay, well, who do I actually want to be as an artist? What do I want this record to sound like? She worked with crazy people on this record. Worked with Beth Ditto from Gossip.
Oh my God,
Tuve Lu has a songwriting credit on this. Max Martin is on this. Shellback is on this.
What?
You can see like where
No wonder I love it.
she wants this to go. Like, yeah, but unfortunately, it kind of doesn't meet the success of Sticks and Stones. It peaks at number 21 in the UK albums chart. Again, though, kind of like, this is probably perceived as a flop at the time, but it went to number 12 in the States. And I'm like, if you got a number 12 album as an ex-reality star contestant in the States now, you would be like, how is she doing it? Oh my God, incredible success.
Yeah, because I was watching a lot of YouTube videos from different people who were kind of, showing the flop that Cher became. And they were like, she only got to 12 on the America. I'm like, is that not a slay though?
That's like, obviously would never happen now, but
It would
like,
never happen now.
it's just...
Could you imagine Anne-Marie going 12 in America? Like, Joe, like, no offense.
Not
Love
the
you,
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie.
Oh my God.
Love you, Anne-Marie. But
No,
like,
you're right though. You're right.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
it's
100%.
like she's really established in the UK. Like Anne-Marie, let's say, she's really established in the UK. But you wouldn't really see her in an American market. Like, if she then went to America, one of her songs did amazing, and she got a 12 in the Billboard charts, that would be outstanding.
Yeah.
Like Becky Hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people like that are very UK focused. You know, we see that with Little Mix even. You know, like Little Mix were so UK centric.
They never really crossed
And they
over.
never
and
crossed
it's like,
over.
they had the bangers.
They
They had
did.
the bangers. They had everything. And
But
they
they
couldn't
also
do
have
it.
fans over there. But it's just obviously managements, all that kind of stuff didn't work. Like, I was like, how are Little Mix still like playing the Newcastle Hydro every fucking tour? But I think that Cher, like, even though it's seen as a flop, the second album,
It's a decent album. It's a decent
album.
pop record. I wonder, again, if someone else had released it or whatever, you know, what would have happened. I think a lot of the failings are around the first single. I like it as a song, and I think it screams second single to me. It screams...
I think that's the same. Like, I love the single. I think that it is such a good single. I think that the T.I. feature is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that it is so her, but it's also more palatable, like, to everyone. You know? It's something you can play in the car. It's not that offensive.
Yeah.
But I think that Sirens should have been the way she came back.
Yeah, because I think it would have acted like Swagger Jagger in a way that it would have caught people off guard, but in like a better way, and would have paved the way for the second album. Now, obviously, as well, we have to acknowledge this album doesn't come out for, I think it's 3 years after her first album. Time is money in pop girly games, especially early on in your career. If you're like a Rihanna or a Lady Gaga, you can afford to wait that bit longer. But I think, and again, a lot of these things were out of her hands with the delay of this album. I think that affected things as well. But again, like decently reviewed, I would say. Idolator gave it 3.5 out of 5, saying, "Sorry I'm Late may have really been worth the wait. While it's still that fresh and carefree pop music, that's sure to be on every tween's playlist this summer. It does have elements that show Lloyd as a blossoming young woman." She has like songwriting credits on this album again. I think she's songwriting credits on 5 of the songs. All Music praised the album. They gave it 4 out of 5. They said the album finds the former British X Factor contestant maturing just enough from her 2011 debut to show growth while still retaining all of her bright, infectious pop sensibilities. In the 21st century world of extreme pop divas and powers production, action-packed with hooks, beats, and hashtag lyrical content, Lloyd comes off as a natural, like a likeable girl next door with a queen-sized attitude and voice to match.
Exactly.
Fair.
And I'd say fair to that.
Yeah.
I think that she was almost outdated at this time.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
It was almost like she couldn't keep up with what was going on.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, like, but honestly, one of her best features that we have not talked about, Really Don't Care.
I forgot this as well. Yeah, this is around that time as well.
So this was around kind of her second wave.
Yeah.
And I think like Really Don't Care did really, really well.
Really Don't Care, a Demi Lovato song on her comeback album in a way, the self-titled Demi. Banger. Such a good pop song.
But I can see glimpses of Demi in this.
Yeah.
You know?
100%, actually, now that you say it, yeah.
And I think that even with like Sirens, it's very kind of like a skyscraper kind of vibe.
Yeah.
She was kind of going for that formula.
Yeah.
But I don't think that she had the vocal ability for that.
No. She's a good singer. She's not she's not
she's not like...
She's not a Demi.
She's not Demi. And I think that she didn't have the vocal chops and she also didn't have the fame.
Yeah.
I think if she had released this a year after The Want You Back, even maybe 6 months, she would have been able to kind of keep the momentum going for a while.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that she had to wait 3 years is what really stopped her from riding that wave. Because I was like, it was like a match. It went out as like fast as it like went up.
As it lit, yeah. I'm trying to look at the other songs on this record that I like. I love Dirty Love. Dirty Love's pretty good.
Love.
I get what she was trying to do with motherfucking Party of the Year, which is acronymized. Is that how you say it? As MFPOTY. It's too many letters, Cher.
When I saw the explicit sign on this album, I got so excited.
You were like, wow, what is she going to say? What is she going to say?
But I'm just really sad that, because I just think she's so talented.
Yeah.
And I think that if she had, I think actually breaking the US was to her detriment.
That's interesting. Okay.
And
maybe it set the standard too high or put pressure on her. Yeah.
I think that if you look at like, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep bringing up Little Mix because they were around the same time. And there wasn't that many like females that did well from the X Factor. But if you looked at Little Mix, they kept it low key. They kept it very UK centric. They obviously did go over to America for the second album, Salute, but it was a slow burn.
Yeah.
I think that like Psycho put all of the money into Cher to be their kind of, you know, female
She'll be
pop
the breakout
star.
for us, yeah.
And it worked, but it didn't work well enough.
I think it worked, and then I think it was also like, you'd wonder, was there kind of like, she talks in that Guardian interview about people coming up to her being like, oh, I thought you were horrible. I'm really glad that you're not. Was there a thing of like, her British audience felt so alienated because of this perception they had of her from reality TV, because of this perception they had of her from Swagger Jagger, that it was kind of like, well, we're not buying into you. And then it wasn't even enough to see the Americans buying into her. It's really...
I think that she could have swayed that though.
Yeah, maybe.
I think she could have done, people love a redemption arc.
Yeah.
I think if she had been smart about it, she could have done a redemption arc in the UK.
Yeah.
And I feel like then she could have gone over and built the American audience.
Yeah.
I actually think her star rose too fast.
Okay.
Because it came crashing down just as fast as she went up.
Yeah.
And I think that like, you know, it shows just how fleeting one single can be.
Yeah. And in the midst of all this, obviously as well, she gets married. She gets, I think his name is Craig Monk. He's a hairdresser. They have 2 children now, but like she got married very young. She got married at 20. And she has talked about how, you know, like, especially after the second album or even during the second album, that like she'd be in rooms with people in which she's being told like, this is going to be at your detriment because it's going to be harder to market you, because we won't have the thing of, you know, you're not out with someone who might be a possible collaborator or another celebrity, and we can't say that you hooked up, or we can't plant that as a story. Essentially, she was like, I have heard it all, like every single tactic. And even the whole thing around her, at the time she gave this first interview, she'd had her first child. And she said that was kind of nearly weaponized against her as well, where she's kind of she's doing this tour, kind of regional tour in America, like, and going to the radio stations or whatever, like press tour. And they're asking about like, can women have it all? And she's very much like an advocate of like, yeah, obviously so many people have done it before. And she even said she got offered, she doesn't say what it was, but she got offered like a massive promotional opportunity, but ended up she couldn't take it, or they rescinded because she'd had the baby, and they were like, if you take it and you do it so soon after having the baby, like I think that will bring criticism. And she's kind of like, well, it's up to me to make that call as to whether I feel ready to come back. I don't know why you're making that for me. So it's all of these other things, going back to that point of like, it's so much harder when you're a woman, and there are so many other factors. And I've seen it with other artists who've gotten like married young or had babies kind of younger, where it's then weaponized against them to be like, where you're immediately not relatable to like young people because of these decisions that you're making. Like, it's nuts. It's so nuts.
It's so nuts. And it's like, you can't live your life without thinking of the pop machine.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that she chose peace.
Yeah. I
think she kind of was like, I'm done.
Yeah, because she ended up moving back to, I think they bought a house. They have a house in Essex, but like I think they have property wherever the hell she's from as well, again, some UK place that I don't know the name of.
Like and she,
and she there's a third album in the bank, right? That I think she had signed to some other label that's escaping me at the minute. There's a third album in the bank somewhere. She'd preceded this with singles, None of My Business and MIA. None of My Business.
Love None of
Very
My Business.
Very
Love
good.
None of My Business.
This is the sound of like an established pop star being able to like kind of straddle the genres without it seeming a bit too costumey, a bit weird. Like, you can still do the R&B thing without it feeling like that.
Yeah.
She sounds so confident. She sounds very cool.
Yeah, I think it was a really good one. I'm just so sad that we didn't get like any live performances of it, or, you know, ever since the second album, I just think that she kind of releases singles and dribs and drabs.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't get into, like, she never has a concept. I think that's a hard thing for Cher. Like, if you think about like who is, you know, doing amazing right now, we think of like Taylor with Tortured Poets. We think of Short and Sweet, Sabrina Carpenter. We think of The Rise and Fall of a Midwestern Princess, Chapel Roan. They all are very strong conceptually. And I don't think that Cher has that. I think she just puts together the songs, throws cover art on it, and goes, hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah. I think there's also the issue of like, obviously I think she was initially signed to Universal Music for this third album after she'd been kind of dropped by Epic, the LA Reid stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think she signed to an independent label called IE Music. That's where she was releasing Activated and None of My Business and MIA. And then in 2020, we had Other Music. And probably her best so far, I'm going to be honest, there's a song called Lost and there's a song called One Drink Away. They were her last kind of solo efforts before she does...
I love One Drink Away.
One Drink Away is very good.
Very good.
I'm like, this is what your entire career was building towards. Again, this kind of like, it's a good, fun parody song. It still has that attitude. It still has that snarl. Oh, it's...
I think that's like, if I was to tell anybody to listen to a Cher Lloyd song now...
It's that one.
Would be the one I'd tell them to listen to, because I think it shows her off as an artist, but it also, you know, is so elevated from her old stuff. And I think that if she did an album completely like that, it would do really commercially well, I think.
She still has 1.9 million monthly listeners on Spotify. That's nothing to be sniffed at whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Oh, Cher Lloyd. Oh. What a fascinating individual.
Yeah.
Ultimately then, Reece, why do you think she flopped?
I think that she couldn't really withstand the industry at the time. I hate to blame other people, but I think the people around her didn't have her best interests at heart, and they didn't, you know, help her in her goals of what she wanted to be as an artist, and kind of steered her in the wrong direction. I think possibly breaking America too early. And also just some of her songs not being great. And that is where it like boils down to. She had absolute bops, but she also had absolute flops too.
That's for sure. That is absolutely for sure.
But please
Reece,
play the Academy.
Play the Academy. I would be. She seems to be doing some kind of more PR-y performances.
Yeah, she
so
did
I'm kind
Mighty
of like,
Hoopla.
can we get a Pride performance over here,
Exactly,
please?
because she did Mighty Hoopla, which I was shocked at.
If anyone was at Mighty Hoopla, did she do Swagger Jagger Mighty
She did.
Hoopla? Yeah. Maybe she's old. Maybe she's because
I think she's over it.
That interview that I read, it was 4 years ago. So maybe she's kind of just more
I
at
think
peace
she's
with it now.
just ready to be.
I hope she is so at peace, as you said, and like healed, and like can laugh about it, and also admire the fact that like she broke America when she was still so young.
And I think that that's nothing to be snubbed at. I think she's had an amazing career. I just don't think that she yearns for it as much anymore.
Yeah.
I think she's happy where she is. She probably will do like a few special appearances for a bit of moolah here and there.
Yeah.
Fair play to her. And she kind of has her legacy set.
Yeah, I agree. Reece, it's been such a pleasure having you
Thank
here.
you.
Where can people find you, listen to you, should they want to?
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok more. So on TikTok, I think it's just at Reece J. Creed on there. I also have my own podcast, which is called Real Talk with Reece. I will get back to that very, very soon. But I have some episodes there on the Power Pop Girls, Charlie XX, Sabrina Carpenter, and Chapel Roan, and Little Mix the Solo Eras. So if you like Cher, you'll probably like those.
Love it. Very, very of the flap culture ilk. So I'm sure listeners will love it. Go listen.
Thank you.
Reece, thank you so much for joining me on Flap
Thanks for
Culture.
having
Much
me.
appreciated.
Love it. Thank you.
Woo!